Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Thira Vanachari. Jamuna Thira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Thira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Thira Vanachari. Jamuna Thira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Radha Shama Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Radhe. Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gaur Hari Bo. Gaur Premanandi Hari Srila Prabhupada Ki, Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is Ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga, text 29. Sarva-bhūta-stham ātmānam, sarva-bhūtāni cātmani, īkṣate yoga-yuktātmā, sarvatra sama-darśanaḥ, sarva-bhūta-stham ātmānam, sarva-bhūtāni cātmani, īkṣate yoga-yuktātmā, sarvatra sama-darśanaḥ, sarva-bhūta-stham ātmānam, sarva-bhūtāni cātmani, īkṣate yoga-yuktātmā, sarvatra sama-darśanaḥ. Sarva-bhūta-stham, situated in all beings. Ātmānam, the Supersoul. Sarva, all. Bhūtāni, entities. Cha, also. Ātmani, in the self. īkṣate, does see. Yoga-yukta-ātmā, one who is dovetailed in Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Sarvatra, everywhere. Sama-darśanaḥ, seeing equally. Prabhuji, shut the fan off. Panca. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. ठीक है? या बंद करो, बंद करो. A true yogi observes me in all beings. Hare Krishna, suniye, listen, don't talk. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. Please repeat. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. Srila Prabhupada's Purport. A Kṛṣṇa conscious yogi is the perfect seer because he sees Kṛṣṇa, the Supreme, situated in everyone's heart as Supersoul, Paramātmā. Īśvaraḥ sarva-bhūtānāṁ hṛd-deśe rjuna tiṣṭhati. The Lord in His Paramātmā feature is situated within both the heart of the dog and that of a brāhmaṇa. The perfect yogi knows that the Lord is eternally transcendental, is not materially affected by His presence in either a dog or a brāhmaṇa. That is the supreme neutrality of the Lord. The individual soul is always situated in the individual heart, but He is not present in all hearts. That is the distinction between the individual soul and the supersoul. One who is not factually in the practice of yoga cannot see so clearly. A Kṛṣṇa conscious person can see Kṛṣṇa in the heart of both the believer and the non-believer. In the Smriti, this is confirmed as follows. Atattatvac cha matrevac cha ātmāhe paramo hari. The Lord, being the source of all beings, is like the mother and the maintainer. As the mother is neutral to all different kinds of children, the Supreme Father or Mother is also. Consequently, the Supersoul is always in every living being. Outwardly also, every living being is situated in the energy of the Lord. As will be explained in the 7th chapter, the Lord has primarily two energies, the spiritual or superior and the material or inferior. The living entity, although part of the superior energy, is conditioned by the inferior energy. The living entity is always in the Lord's energy. Every living entity is situated in Him in one way or another. The yogi sees equally because he sees that all living entities, although in different situations, according to the results of fruitive work, in all circumstances, remains the servants of God. While in the material energy, the living entity serves the material senses, and while in the spiritual energy, he serves the Supreme Lord directly. In either case, the living entity is the servant of God. This vision of equality is perfect in a person in Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistang Stapitang Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Namaom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadeshatarane Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Bhagavad Gita, the song of God, is very powerful, very philosophical. It starts very simple. It may seem that some simple questions are being asked by Arjuna. You know, the first lesson is Dehino sminyata dehe komarang yovanang jara tata dehantara prapti dhiras tatra namuyati. That the living entity who is embodied is going from boyhood to youth to old age. At the time of death, the soul is forced into another body according to his karma, according to his activities, according to his desires. Krishna is very kind. He reciprocates. He's practically pleading like a loving parent, please come back home. Come back to the spiritual kingdom. But we're so conditioned by this material life, bewildered by our family, nationality, customs, traditions, what everyone else is doing, you know, the blind leading the blind. Our teachers, they have no direction. The scientists, the professors, all the literature in the world doesn't give clear guidance as to what is the purpose and goal of life. But fortunately, with great fortune, Brahmanda Brahmite Konya Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Kṛṣṇa Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij, that we are hearing from Srila Prabhupada, who's delivering Bhagavad Gita as it is. There are many Bhagavad Gitas in the marketplace. Back in the 70s, I was studying Maharishi Mahesh Yogi's 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. But they are not, they are motivated by the person who is writing and or different philosophies. Krishna is personally speaking, and to have this clear understanding that Īśvara Parama Kṛṣṇa Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karna Karanam. Krishna is the cause of all causes. He's eternal. Īśvara Parama Kṛṣṇa, the supreme controller. That He is not only in every single atom, He's in our heart. Just like the sunshine, the sun rays are shining everywhere. So even like the Lord, His effulgence and even His presence is there. Krishna is all cognizant, all knowing. He knows everything. He knows our heart because the Supersoul, Paramātmā, this is the omniscience of the Lord. Whereas we may know our own personal body and our own pains and pleasures or happiness and distress, but I don't know what's happening in other living beings. I can only guess. But Kṛṣṇa, He knows everything. He sees everything. So here we're seeing how the true yogi, he sees that Kṛṣṇa is there in the dog, He's there in the tree, He's there in the elephant, the cow, the camel, all living entities. No living being can move without the Lord giving that direction. Sarvasya chahang hṛd-deśe vishto matat smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Kṛṣṇa says, I'm in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, forgetfulness, isn't it? Yes. Knowledge, all knowledge is coming from Kṛṣṇa. Forgetfulness is coming from Kṛṣṇa. So for a long time we've forgotten that we don't belong in this place called Martya Loka. What a horrible definition, a place of death. No matter if you have all kinds of plans for accumulating great wealth, being happy in the family situation. Why do I need God? I have so much wealth and so many people like Hiranyakashipu or even Kamsa. They had even the demigods subservient. They're very powerful. But this janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi, dukkha doshanu darshanam, this old age, disease, and death and rebirth are there for everyone. Everyone is forced to die. So Kṛṣṇa, in the form of appearing again and again, especially for us in particular, 5,000 years ago, Kṛṣṇa and Balaram came, and their lotus feet are all over Raman Reti in Vrindavan, Govardhan. And they're exhibiting, they're showing what goes on in the spiritual world. It's not some big factories and polluted rivers and, all these different machines and rockets and bombs and all these electronic toys. The world's in a very, very difficult situation. People are suffering. Different, because one is one belief, their next door neighbors, they want to kill each other and slaughter each other. What to speak of the situation now, the possibilities of nuclear war to destroy the whole material existence. And this is the difficulty, that until and unless we take up the process of Kṛṣṇa consciousness. And what does that mean? Hearing about Kṛṣṇa, chanting about Kṛṣṇa, and working for Kṛṣṇa. Yat karoshi yad shnasi yad jahoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi konti yat tad kurushva madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever work you perform, whatever austerities or sacrifices you make, do it for Kṛṣṇa. So people are sacrificing their time and energy to go to school, they go to night school, they hold 2 or 3 jobs, and they're working very, very hard, feverishly, trying to accumulate money and thinking that, yes, I'm a good person, I'm religious, I go to church on Sunday in my family, we know something. But there's no question of studying scripture. Some do, and that's good. Any bona fide religion that awakens love for God is acceptable. We're not rejecting. But Bhagavad Gita gives very clear directions that we have to first start with controlling the mind, controlling the tongue, controlling the belly, controlling the genitals. And this is difficult because the whole world is centered around these activities of sense gratification. So it's not like some impersonalist or voidist philosophy thinking that I'll just go in a cave and do nothing, become inert. Arjuna was suggesting that I go to the jungle and just meditate. I don't want to fight. I don't want to kill my family. No, we actually have to perform our duties. And our duty, as instructed by Kṛṣṇa himself in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is to spread this knowledge of Krishna consciousness throughout the world with equal vision, that whether one is a Christian or a Jewish follower, or following Hinduism, or following whatever religion, we can relate that we're all spirit soul. We're eternal. It doesn't matter that I'm driving one type of vehicle and somebody's driving another type of vehicle. Prabhupada tells that someone in a big car ambassador and there's a tela or a rickshaw. Hey, rickshaw, get out of the way. Tela, get out of the way. As if the person himself is the tela and I am the auto, I'm the ambassador of the car. So we're thinking that I am this body, and this body is everything. Whether there's God or no God, let me just enjoy. This is Shreyas and Preyas. Preyas means like children, they want to play all day. They don't want to go to school. Even Prabhupada didn't like going to school. He wanted, and even Kṛṣṇa and Balaram, they want to be playing. They're playing with their friends, their cowherd boy friends. And then Rohini, Mother Yashoda and Rohini are talking, okay, call Kṛṣṇa and Balaram. Nanda Maharaj is waiting for his meal. So Kṛṣṇa and Balaram, no, we don't want to go yet. And the boys are saying, if you guys go, we're not playing with you next time, So then Mother Yashoda had to come, and she really was heavy that Nanda Baba's waiting for his meal, and he won't take his meal unless you're here. So Kṛṣṇa and Balaram had to come home and perform their duties. So people are looking for happiness, people are looking for enjoyment, and unfortunately people are seeing others externally for their external, like the Mexicans might be looking at the Americans in California, they wanted to build a big wall to keep them out. But all the land belongs to Kṛṣṇa. Everything belongs to Kṛṣṇa. The sea belongs to Kṛṣṇa. The air belongs to Kṛṣṇa. But we've designated this tract of land is being controlled by us, our people, our nation. So this is the biggest misunderstanding for spiritual life, that we are this body, and that all the endeavor and our vision is a very sectarian vision. In this way we fight, Americans against the Russians, and the Chinese against them, and the Koreans against the Japanese, and Palestinians against the Israelis, and whatnot. Throughout the world, everyone is being led by blind leaders, and the leaders don't have an understanding as to how to get out of this difficulty of birth, old age, and disease and death. So Srila Prabhupada took this mission of Krishna consciousness under the order of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally showed by his example that love and that caring compassion, so many lessons. If you go to a university and you want to learn something, you have to study very attentively, hear from the teacher, the professor, study the books and practice whatever it is that you are learning, especially in the, if you want to become professional in any field, you have to be very, if you want to be a doctor, imagine you go to a doctor who doesn't really study or didn't really take his lessons or hear from his professors, but he's going to be telling you or working on your body and telling you what to do and how to do it. So you want to look for the best. So for spiritual life, for real perfection of yoga, the real yogi takes shelter of Kṛṣṇa. It's not some artificial process of, just going to the yoga club, you got your latest tights and you want to socialize with all your other yogi friends, and afterwards you want to just go out and have a drink and party and maybe have a physical relationship. So the yoga is more of a social gathering, maybe for health and some sort of meditation, but the perfect yogi is one who abides in Kṛṣṇa with faith, who's actually surrendered. And daily we have to hear him. All the great teachers, Ambarish Maharaj is quoted often. He was an emperor. He had many duties in his kingdom. He had to take care of responsibilities. What is a king? He has his royal subjects, he has his ministers, he has his secretaries, he has his military, but also he has to fulfill and engage all the citizens in a way that they can be following religious principles. So Ambarish Maharaj, he utilized all his senses in the service of the Lord. We're not just denying, no, you can't eat that, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. Of course, there are rules and regulations, but the pleasure that one can derive by awakening our Kṛṣṇa consciousness is an ocean, a very, very huge ocean. The pleasure of material existence is not even a drop. It's imaginary, it's illusory. And of course there's some happiness, because the spirit soul is like Kṛṣṇa. It's eternal, full of bliss, full of knowledge. And if one is eternal and has this relationship with Kṛṣṇa in the spiritual world, but now due to misuse of our independence, we find ourselves in this material world, entrapped in a body, and we have to deal with our mind, our intelligence, our ego. Whatever we do is being observed. As you sow, so you shall reap. All the great acharyas, all the great avatars of the Lord. Lord Kapila is teaching his mother, Queen Kunti, about the perfection of life, how to get free from the bodily concept of life. Queen Kunti is praying to Kṛṣṇa that we were struggling and suffering, and you were always there to help us, and we're always meditating on your lotus feet. Now you are going away. Let these sufferings come again and again. Not in a negative way, but when one is dependent on Kṛṣṇa, when we're thinking that Kṛṣṇa is my protector, that one can become fearless, because fear arises in the conditioned soul, especially for one who's on the verge of death. Imagine you're on death row, time's almost up, the hanging or whatever kind of execution may be there. Naturally you become fearful, you think, okay, my life is finished. But life is not finished. Life continues on, again and again. So if there's a solution to the challenge of repeated birth and death, this is the problem. The problem is we're going to die. Our family members have died, our friends and relatives are dying. We're hearing every time, especially during difficult times of war and pestilence, pandemics and whatnot, more people die more quickly. But everyone's going to die. So while we have this gift of the human form of life, we have to be a true yogi. We have to see Kṛṣṇa in every living being. We have to realize that Kṛṣṇa is the Father of everyone and we're all brothers and sisters. And the one religion is love of Kṛṣṇa, chanting the holy name. And the name of God has the transcendental effect. When Haridas Thakur was discussing in the home of Raghunath Das's father and uncle, they were discussing about the potency of the holy name, about liberation. And Haridas Thakur said, just like in the early morning time when the sun, it hasn't even arisen, but the sun is about to emerge or rise, the darkness is being dissipated already. And one is actually beginning to see and understand what is going on instead of being in total darkness. So even a glimmer of the holy name, we may still have various offenses and or misconceptions about our spiritual identity. But that doesn't matter. Simply by chanting Kṛṣṇa's holy name, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By hearing that sound vibration and by engaging our tongue and our ear and our mind, because in order to chant, we have to apply the mind and the intelligence, otherwise we'll want to do other things. And instead of hearing, all of you are like great yogis because you could be doing something maybe more fun out there, maybe stuck in traffic, going to Loy Bazaar. That's not fun. But this is the best thing to do. By sitting and hearing about Kṛṣṇa, that Kṛṣṇa is beautiful, He's our Father, He's in our heart, He's guiding us, He's guiding everyone. And that, what is that guidance? The guidance is give up the attempt to become happy on your own in this world and take up this process of Kṛṣṇa bhakti, bhakti yoga. By bhakti, by devotion, and there are so many services. The Guru's engaging us in the deity worship, engaging us in hearing and chanting, making very tasteful arrangements for the Supreme Lord. And we get, by making the offering, Kṛṣṇa gives it back in the form of prasadam. And that prasadam is purifying us. Then sadhu sangha, by associating with devotees in the holy dham, just following the order of our spiritual master. The spiritual master is ordering that you go and you see the deity early in the morning. A yogi is one who rises before the Brahma Muhurta, chants the holy name, worships the Archa Vigraha, the deity, dressing the deity, bathing the deity, making offerings for the deity, cleansing the temple room, cleansing the altar. All day hearing, there's so many incredible pastimes. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was publishing a daily publication, Nadia Patrika, something in Bengal. He was, and one person was astonished. How is it you can publish every day something about spiritual life? He said, every day there's newspapers discussing about the material activities of materialists, first edition, second edition, third edition, big bunch of newspapers, and people all day are reading this nonsense. And basically it's all just people killing and disastrous suffering, then it becomes newsworthy. But Kṛṣṇa's pastimes, when Kṛṣṇa was discussing with Ramananda Roy and with Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that the beauty of Kṛṣṇa is like a deep ocean, but I'm just giving you one drop. So we continue daily hearing, continue following this process, then the disease of lust, the disease of anger, envy, jealousy, bodily concept, that's being cleansed. Cheto darpana marjanam bhavamaha divagni nirvapanam. That cleansing of the heart comes by chanting the Lord's holy name. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving us the proper mood. Charnadapi sunichena tarorapi seshnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. Being humble, tolerant, not expecting any kind of, giving up one's own ideas of glorification, and ready to offer all respect to others. It's very difficult because everyone is feeling very proud. Number one nation, number one dad. A lot of competition in this world to become number one because we're imitating Kṛṣṇa. We're imitating the supreme enjoyer. Kṛṣṇa, he's the supreme enjoyer. Even Balaram serving Kṛṣṇa, Srimati Radharani is serving Kṛṣṇa, all the cowherd boys, Yashoda, Nanda, everyone is serving Kṛṣṇa. And they're taking great pleasure in serving Kṛṣṇa. The whole Leela is unfolding as we're hearing in Srimad Bhagavatam class, right from the birth of Kṛṣṇa and Kṛṣṇa performing so many wonderful activities. Lord Brahma stealing the cowherd boys and calves. But Kṛṣṇa, just to show Brahma that he's not just an ordinary cowherd boy, he manifested himself as Narayans. Each and every cowherd boy with their mannerisms, their look, and their liking, disliking, their clothing, each cow, everything was perfectly replicated. And so much so that even the mothers and even the cow mothers were loving their children and their calves even more because Kṛṣṇa was being present personally. And Lord Brahma was totally bewildered. Now Brahma is the creator of the universe. He is Pitamaha, like the father who's created all the sages, created all the planets. You look up in the sky, you see all the stars and planets. Lord Brahma has been empowered by the Supreme Lord for the full creation. And now we heard about Lord Indra. He's still a little bit angry. Last couple of days we're getting extra rain. We're not used to during this time of the year. And because the rituals were going on to worship the demigods, this is the practice of people in the material world. They worship the demigods so they can get wealth. They can have rains and grain. And so to avoid just blind, customary traditions or worship of the demigods, Kṛṣṇa wanted his pure devotees, his devotees, to worship the Supreme Lord. He took the form of Govardhan. And these pastimes are bewildering even to the demigods. It's not that we can, oh yes, Kṛṣṇa's God, very good, I'll surrender. It takes one who's very, very fortunate, who's eager to hear, who's enthusiastic to hear, and who's actually very simple and accepts, not blindly, but with just admiration and appreciation of how wonderful Kṛṣṇa is. Wonderful Kṛṣṇa. These are not stories being made up of Kṛṣṇa. The great acharyas have better things to do than just tell us fictitious stories. So if Kṛṣṇa comes to this world and yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanang dharmasya tadatmanang sarjamyaham. Because in the material world, in the prison house, people are irreligious. They've given up their subservient mood of serving God, isn't it? Jivara Swarup Hoy Krishner Nityadas. Every living entity is a servant of Kṛṣṇa. And by serving Kṛṣṇa, by following the order of the spiritual master and serving Kṛṣṇa, then we can awaken this understanding of what is the purpose of my life, how to achieve that goal. But unfortunately, the mind is very, very strong, very powerful. One might even hear about Kṛṣṇa or hear about the process of devotional service. But most people say, okay, enough. Let's go see this. Let's go see that. Let's take the family away. So this is being a real hero, to make that conscious decision that I'm going to dedicate this lifetime for serving Kṛṣṇa. And Kṛṣṇa will help us. Sadhu Shastra Guru is there to direct us. We have guidance. And daily reading Bhagavad Gita, daily hearing the Bhagavatam class, just increase the hearing and chanting. Like Haridas Thakur, born in a Muslim family, many of the brāhmanas were very critical. Advaita Acharya was honoring Haridas Thakur. You're better than hundreds of thousands of brāhmanas. He was dedicated to chanting all day and night the holy name of the Lord and spreading the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That takes great determination. And the story you've heard in Chaitanya Charitamrita is Ramchandra Khan became very envious of Haridas Thakur. How is it that these people are respecting this Muslim mendicant? I'm from a good Brahmana family. Why they're not giving me such respect? So he sent a local prostitute, a beautiful girl, and she come, offer obeisances to Tulsi, come before Haridas Thakur. Haridas said, yes, I made a vow to chant my rounds. I'm getting close to finishing. You sit down and listen, and I will fulfill all your desires. So the night goes by, the morning comes, so she went away. Next day again, oh yes, I'm for sure I'll be finishing my rounds today. You sit down, you listen. And the third day again, she came and she said, I was sent by Ramchandra Khan to break your vow. He goes, I knew that from the very beginning. I could have left, but I wanted to give you a chance for Kṛṣṇa Bhakti. And so people were amazed that she shaved up. Her whole profession was to induce people to have the sexual relationship. And so she was instructed by Haridas Thakur that you give away all your possessions because they were acquired by illegal funds, and you worship Tulsi Devi and you chant the holy name, and I'll provide your sustenance, your food. So she became also dedicated, chanting like Haridas Thakur. But imagine the determination from a lifestyle of breaking rules and regulations and not having a clear idea, and by associating with such a great saint, people were so impressed that Haridas Thakur had such power to convert someone to become dedicated like that. So when we look at the situation, how difficult it is for people to take up Kṛṣṇa consciousness, we sometimes wonder, how are all the people going to be saved? How they'll... Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is questioning Haridas Thakur, how will everyone be saved? He said, oh Lord, you've already saved them with your loud chanting of Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the Rath Yatra is there, Lord Jagannath, Lady Subhadra, Lord Baladev. They're giving blessings. And what are the devotees doing? Kirtan, chanting. Prabhupada, when he started this mission of Kṛṣṇa consciousness, the devotees were so full of gratitude that, Prabhupada, you've saved our lives. You've given us eternal life. And their activities were all day long, chanting and serving the Lord. They had no time simply for mundane activities. So Kali Yuga is such a condition that people in Kali Yuga are destined for the abode of Yamaraj. And the description of the punishment for committing sinful activities such as slaughtering the animals, not knowing the Lord's in the heart of every living being, slaughtering the babies in the womb, just in general, being ignorant of the law of God. There's great suffering and pain awaiting. Even now people are experiencing suffering and pain, but even more suffering and pain is awaiting for those who do not take up the process of bhakti and devotion. And we see the story of a Jamil. He was born in a brāhmana family, had good training, performing ritualistic activities and helping his father. But by associating, by seeing the Shudra and Shudrani kissing and embracing, and this awakened this disturbing desire for material enjoyment. So you see how powerful. Now we have internet. You can see all day long the kissing and embracing, and everything is centered around the relationship of a family and sexual relationship, without having a clue that unless we atone, unless we take up this atonement, real atonement, then there'll be great suffering. Just like Parikshit Maharaj was asking Shukadeva Goswami that if people can't control their minds, what is the use of atonement? It's like an elephant taking a nice bath, coming out of the water, and then throwing dirt all over himself again. So this is what's taking place in this world. People, even if they perform some religious activity for atonement, some kind of confession, but then again commit sinful activities, there will be repercussions. And even Mrigarhi the hunter, he was hunting, half killing animals. They were suffering, and Narada Muni said, why are you only half killing? Kill them all the way, otherwise you're going to have very heavy sinful reactions. All these animals will come and you'll be punished. And he never knew. He thought, I was taught this way. I took pleasure in seeing the animals suffering. So then Narada Muni immediately, by his mystic powers, fixed the animals. They just jumped up and ran away, and Mrigarhi thought, whoa. He took it very seriously that this saintly person, what he's speaking is true. It must be something there. And Narada Muni instructed him that you break your bow, and you and your wife, you just sit in the bank, worship Tulsi Devi, chant the holy name. But what about eating? Don't worry, I will provide for that. So naturally, in the cultured society, when people heard that this hunter who was so cruel and half killing animals, that he gave up this profession and took up the bhakti process, they thought, oh, Narada Muni, you're like a touchstone, such a great saint. So Haridas Thakur, he's giving blessings, Narada Muni's giving blessings. Srila Prabhupada, he's also taking all of us who were misled, bewildered by our uncontrolled mind and senses, no real purpose and direction or goal in life. If you ask people in general, what is the goal of your life? What is the goal? I want to become wealthy. I want to have a good family. I want to have possessions, and I want to enjoy. But that enjoyment is not there. In the material world, it's only a mirage, like an illusion. Because before you reach the water in the desert, you can get more and more exhausted and just die. So that happiness and the goal of life that materialists want in this world is like a dream. It's an illusion. The real reality is Kṛṣṇa. We are part of Kṛṣṇa. We're servants of Kṛṣṇa. We should take up the process of devotional service. And the best way to start this wonderful journey of Kṛṣṇa consciousness is to start chanting the Lord's name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Just chant, chant, chant. Don't say can't, can't, can't. It's true, the mind is very fickle. The mind is our best friend, but it's also our worst enemy. But you know what? The mind is a reflection of our desires and is a reflection of our activities. So we've created our mind. We're the masterminds of our mind. Because of our activities and our desires, our false egos covering our true self. And from that false ego, we get a material body due to our activities, karmana daivana trena, our desires to enjoy this world, our desires to become like Kṛṣṇa. But real happiness comes when we're servants of Kṛṣṇa. We see Kṛṣṇa's in everyone's heart, and then we start developing the godly qualities which are necessary in order to reawaken our love for the Lord, where we see, my Lord, somehow I've fallen into this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of repeated suffering. Engage me as one of your servants. Whether you handle me roughly by your embrace or make me brokenhearted by not being present before me, you're always my Lord unconditionally. So we have to feel sheltered in Krishna's home. Srila Prabhupada created a society, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and the essence of his society is Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion, Sadhu Sangha, the association of devotees, and the temple and deity worship. This is all very scientific and very medicinal. So we can wrap it up here. We got a few minutes for if anyone has any questions or comments. A true yogi observes me and all beings and also sees every being in me. Krishna's, he's everything. He's in everyone's heart, but he's also all-pervading. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. Any question? Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you very much for your nice lecture, which is eye-opener for the devotees as well as the non-devotees also. As you said, rightly pointed out, the mind is more powerful. It always reacts to the senses and enjoy the body comforts and all these things. But even though we are having a strong will to follow the Krishna consciousness, and the mind always being a powerful enemy, I mean, grabs to the senses, so it can be controlled. Because again and ever I am finding this problem. When I do the Krishna Mala and all these things, my mind is touching all these things. When I come to the concepts, the other material aspects, but my mind is always back to me to the wrong things.
Right.
Can you throw some light on this matter to progress in Krishna consciousness?
Krishna gives the example of the senses are like horses. The tongue is on one horse, the ears on one horse, the eyes, the sense of the touch. So the senses are irritated by the modes of nature, passion, ignorance, and goodness. In Kali Yuga, especially, people are driven by ignorance and passion, by lust. And then the mind is the reins. That means on all the horses there's the ropes or the reins. Yeah? In the intelligence, is actually the driver. So the mind is facilitating, thinking of ways to facilitate the senses that, I'm hungry, okay, let me get something to eat. I'm thirsty, I want to see, I want to see something, I want to hear something. So in the material world, we're looking for gratifying the senses, the mind is scheming, and the intelligence allows it because the intelligence is also misguided. So the Lord, the spiritual master, in the form of Bhagavad Gita, in form of the great acharyas and Srila Prabhupada, are giving directions and giving instructions how to make the intelligence more clear. Chaitodarpanam Arjuna. This chanting and hearing will help sharpen the intelligence so that the mind and senses cannot override the intelligence. Because if you're just sitting as a passenger in the wild horses, the senses and the mind and the corrupt intelligence, then instead of going to the Kṛṣṇa Balaram Mandir, you go to the local bar or go to the nightclub. Yes, I'd rather, or do something that's more gratifying. But Arjuna complained the mind is too difficult to control, senses are very difficult. Kṛṣṇa said with constant practice and detachment, jnana, vairagya. So jnana, we're developing knowledge by hearing from the authorities. It's not some mystical, magical, it is quite magical, but we have to put in the time and the effort to do the sadhana, study the sadhana. That's why the young boy, before he has a desire to gratify senses, he goes to the Gurukul. So from the very beginning of life, they are trained how to utilize the mind and senses for developing a higher understanding of life. So our only solution is chanting the Lord's holy name and hearing from the Lord's own words, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. These are all instructions and guidance given by Kṛṣṇa how to strengthen the intelligence. It takes some time. Thank you. So 6:30, the artik starting. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Hare Krishna. Fans,